Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next webinar of Strong Women in IT. Today's webinar is about employer branding in a hybrid world, which we already live right now. And to talk about this topic, we invited three really amazing and experienced ladies who are going to share with us the experience, the point of view, and of course, I believe hints that we can implement in our companies. So without further ado, let me introduce Sylwia Bilska, Managing Director at Edenred Poland. Hello, Sylwia.
Hello, hi.
Frida Saberian, Sustainable Manager at Ework Group.
Hello.
Frida. And Róża Szafranek, Founder and CEO of HR Hints, Owner and CEO of Culturivy Institute. Hello, Róża.
Hello, hi.
So, ladies, let's start with brief introduction of your work, of what are you doing. So, Sylwia, can you start telling and present us what are you doing, what Edenred is doing?
Thank you so much for the introduction, Anita. So I'm Sylwia. I have a pleasure to lead the Edenred company in Poland. Edenred is number one digitalizing the benefits for the employees. So it's a technological platform that is providing the benefits to the employees worldwide. What I'm doing, I'm the humble servant of the clients of Edenred. So this is kind of a description of what I'm doing in my life.
Wonderful. So I believe that today you are going to talk us a lot about benefits that we can give to our employees and how to make them more interested in what we do at our companies.
I will try.
Frida, tell us about your work. Tell us about Ework. Tell us about what are you doing in the Ework.
Yes, I work for Ework Group. We are a total talent solutions provider. We have clients and professionals, consultants that we provide to our clients, working in both private and public sector, mainly in the Nordics, but also in Poland and most recently in Slovakia. And I am the sustainability manager, heading the sustainability work at Ework Group, focusing on both environmental and DEI aspects in that work, and work closely with our HR department and other functions in Ework Group.
Thank you. I am really interested in how you manage all your employer branding stuff. So now, please, Róża, tell us about your work. What are you doing? What is Higher Hints and what is Culturivy Institute?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. I'm super happy to talk with such amazing ladies today. And I'm representing the HR service company. So HR Hints is company dedicated to companies between 5 and 500 people on board. So we are acting as interim HR managers. So we are part of organizations. We are currently working with around 30 up to 40 companies every month. So our scale is quite big when it comes to different companies from currently 11 countries, including European countries and North American ones. And that's HR Hints, how we operate there. And Culturivy Institute is the methodology. So after helping 112 companies, we decided to write a methodology that is built on scaling healthy organizational cultures. So how to build talent acquisition process, how to hire, how to fire, how to communicate, how to solve conflicts. So all the stuff regarding people in organizations. We've written a book and we made a premiere last year in US. This year we are doing it in Poland. So we structured the HR for organizations that are growing and they're like taking care of people in general.
So you are in a perfect place and you are a perfect guest to tell us about, hacks that we can implement in the business and share some stories from your experience. So ladies, the idea of talking about employer branding in a hybrid world goes to our report that we published last year, where only 2% of our strong women in IT declared that they work only in the offices, that they work in stationary system. To be precise, 74% of women who represent corporations declare that they work remotely. 52% women that represent startups said that they represent women who companies that work remotely. 45% of startups of women from startups declare that they work in a hybrid work, and 24 from women from corporation declare that they work in a hybrid way. So that shows us that after pandemic hit, the way we look at the business and hire people, do our communication connected with employer branding completely change. And this is something I want to talk about with you, because how to organize a successful employer branding company nowadays when you don't have so much benefits that usually you have when you have offices. So what is the biggest challenge? And Róża, this question goes for you. What is the biggest challenge in running a hybrid work company when you think about your clients and finding the right people to work with those companies?
Okay, thanks for starting from that, because the relation between building the successful organizational culture and thinking about employer branding is crucial here, because we start building employer branding, so thinking about encouraging people to come to us, to build a great offer for candidates from having ambassadors inside. So there is no point to build great story, great narration for candidates when we don't care about people who we are having hired already. So building healthy organizational culture is crucial, especially in a hybrid world, because what we see in the bigger scale is the fact that it's much more challenging to have a good communication and have good leadership in hybrid organizations than in fully remote or fully office-based organizations. Because the first challenge is the fact that we are having a lot of biases based on relations and being offline or online. The most crucial one and the most problematic one when it comes to performance reviews, for example. No matter if we are thinking about well-structured HR process, or just giving feedback, or just taking into consideration if someone is working well or not. But when we think about rating someone's work, we see that proximity bias is the most common thing from 2 years. So proximity bias, that is problematic because the fact that someone is coming to the office makes that person as an employee rated much better than person who is working fully remote, even if this person's work effects, this working remotely, are much better. So
what do you think is the reason of these biases? Because we don't see how he or she works, or we just see the results? What is the reason? What do you think?
Yeah, the problem is with setting the goals. So what we see from our experiences when we are starting our people and culture work, we see that for the last year, we are having the statistics that almost 80% of leaders are not able to say if their teams are performing well or not. So they are having some OKRs, they are having some KPIs, they are having some goals, but at the end of the day, they rate someone's work rather on intuition, rather on vibe, drive. So all the biases that are making leaders biased based on, for example, the fact that someone is sending an email on Friday evening, or we think like, oh, someone is so engaged because he or she is sending the report on Saturday. So he's so hardworking. He's spending so much time at work. So we are looking at artifacts, not on effects of work. And the reason of that is because the measurement of the goals and the fact what exactly is expected is not set well, not precise enough to be fair here. So the more fluid we are having that leadership mode on, the more biases are getting in. So that proximity bias is absolutely cruel here, because we are rating better people who we meet very often, right? So it's much more effective to be close to your boss, but it's not the effect of work, right? So when we know that type of biases and that type of cognitive problems, we can fight with them. So that type of awareness is super needed here, because, for example, in that cases, when we are having discussion, it's much better to have even the setup. We are having the Stanford research about that we know that, for example, if we are having a discussion and there are 4 of us, it's much better to not to be in the same room. Even if 3 of us, for example, will be in the same office, it's much better to have this separate room, the separate computer, the separate camera, because we are having the same equal access to the voice, to the mic, and we are able to have the equal discussion here. So it's about time awareness, it's about representing awareness, and it's about really effectiveness measurement. But to really measure effectively, you need to set the goals right, and that's the main thing that hybrid work shows us, that a lot of leaders is just not sure what they expect from their people, but they are just based on intuition, and they think that they know what people do and how they set the work, but in fact it's not true.
Okay.
So
Well, that's really impressive, and shows that many employees are not measured in a right way. So there's a lot to be done when it comes to managing organization. Frida, how does it work in your company? What do you see as the biggest challenge when we think about employer branding and hiring people in a hybrid world?
I would say I'm agreeing with a lot of what Róża says. I think the hybrid work kind of gives extroverts, if you're talking about like different personalities, gives extroverts a lot of value in what they do, and they are more seen, and of course, related to that. And I would say we have actually started to measure in our engagement surveys that we do for our employees. We've started to measure how inclusive they feel in different forums and meetings, to make sure that, okay, we are living in a hybrid world now, you are working hybrid, and also across countries. And so we introduced last year a question on that, just to see that, make sure that people are actually feeling the sense that they belong and that they are included in the right meetings and forums. And I think that's one way also to not measuring the employees in their effectiveness, but also making sure that the management are also including everyone in where they should belong, and also coworkers to coworkers. So that's one way of tackling it. Then also we're trying to, a lot of work are focused on health and well-being. We are launching a sustainability month at Ework soon, where we will focus on like a holistic approach on the coworker, to make sure that we catch all different aspects of sustainability regards well-being and everything, to also make sure that and also having then activities that are accessible both remote and in the office, so you can take part of activities and share knowledge in different forums, both physically and digitally. And I think that's also one way to go. But I agree with Róża on the challenge that many companies are facing, and the numbers that you presented, that it is tricky, and that's something we see, and it needs to. It's an ongoing work, and management in all companies, white collar companies, need to actually approach this and learn how to act in a hybrid world.
Yeah. Thank you, Sylwia. So please present how do you see the challenge of hybrid work, and how you try to manage those challenges? Do you have some ways? Do you have some life hacks or business hacks to deal with it?
When I was thinking about the question, I mean, I had a good support from Róża and Frida, but I would identify 5 elements. At least this is based on what I heard from the clients, but also what we experience as Edenred. First of all, one of the most difficult aspects is a communication. Communication, not only what already has been said about like people having a difficulty or being a little bit afraid of speaking up on the calls, but secondly, it's also not all people are technologically savvy. So we need to understand that some of the people are less able to deal with the tech, and we need to help them coordinating, making sure that people do understand that involving others, introverts, or those who don't want to speak up is quite important, but also encouraging connection, because we need to remember that the office space always encouraged the relations and the chit chats and the communication. So we are missing that, and we need to make sure that this connection is still valid, because it's really important for the well-being of the employees. And you can see that because all the meetings in the remote work are set up for the purpose. When you're walking in the office, you have a lot of chit chats which are not connected with the office. So it's like a family things, or it's like, how do you feel today? And suddenly you're missing that part because you're not scheduling the call to say like, oh, hi, Róża, how do you feel today? Like, how is your dog doing? We are done doing those things. So it's quite important to make sure that this connecting side, that you pick up the phone and you just spoke you just talk about the things that they are not work related. Creativity, it's a big challenge in a remote work. So I'm a big ambassador of meeting, bringing people together, spend some time, have a little bit of fun. Because even if we are in a remote work or hybrid, it's good to schedule some meetings that we can be somewhere together. And the culture, I think it's the biggest challenge, because the culture, I think we are in a big testing mode, because so far all those people who've been working before pandemic together, we kind of set the rules, procedures, and the way we are working. And they've been sent onto the remote work or hybrid work, and they know each other, they know how we work in the company, but they also understand the values and what is important for the company. With the newcomers, you need to build it in a different world completely, so remotely. So that's going to be the challenge, and that's going to be something that we need to reshift in terms of the employee branding, and use different tools. So how we communicate, how we how we push the creativity. Sometimes even maybe that's a little bit controversial, but sometimes forcing meetings, because sometimes
Mhm.
forcing is not a bad thing. When you think about the obligatory schooling, it's forcing. No one wants to go to school. If you think about taxation, no one wants to be taxed. So some of the things in the long-term run might be beneficial for the society. So maybe sometimes forcing the meetings. Hi guys, let's meet for the lunch. Hi guys, do together some workshop. It is a big event for the company, but at the same time might be very beneficial for people. So I would consider that as well.
Yeah, so forcing sometimes is important. Róża, do you have some experience connected with the best ways how to build the community, the culture of organization that helps you build the feeling of being connected with others? How to make organization still as a one body, as a one organization that still goes into the same direction? Because as you mentioned, communication is the problem. So how do you have some, maybe, let's say, morning coffee, let's say, like examples of how company can create this culture of sense of belonging, a sense of being still in a team? Do you have some examples that you can share with us?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The main thing is about thinking about organizational culture as a structured and very defined thing, because we are having that pattern, we are having that historical approach that very often we think about organizational culture as it is fruitful Friday, chocolate Wednesday, or the atmosphere or integration function. It's not about that. It's about business function and treating people as, on one hand, humans, but on the other hand, as mature people who can grow with the organization. So being fair, but having also these 4 crucial elements of the pyramid of organizational culture, and having it defined and having it implemented as practices and routines. So it corresponds with what Sylwia said, that we cannot rely that if people have a problem, they will come to us, because some of them will, but some of them not. So we need to make sure that we are having one-on-ones meetings with the manager for everyone, and it's part of the calendar schedule, and every week or every 2 weeks every person in organization has a space to discuss the problem with their leaders. And it's not about, okay, so if you are having questions, please ask, because we are forcing extroverts. So we are maybe not forcing, but we are encouraging extroverts to say, but it's not the equal space to speak up. So the most important aspects of this culture pyramid are, we are having the values at the bottom, but the most crucial are practices and behaviors. So the second and the third element, and on top of the pyramid we are having interactions. Interactions are just the way how people are having conversations with each other. Values are just the main north zones, the main point of goals for the whole organizations. But the crucial aspects are practices and behaviors, and they must be concrete. So when we say about organizational practices, is, for example, how often we report. Are we having weekly reporting? Are we having one-on-ones? How we get information? So do we have any all hands meetings or town hall meetings? When we are getting tasks, are we using Jira? Are we using Notion? Are we having meeting to kick off to get any tasks, or we are doing it asynchronously? So what's the way of working in this organization? And very often organizations think like, okay, if we are hiring very senior people and we pay them a lot of money, we expect them to know how to work. But the problem is that onboarding here is absolutely crucial, because if we don't onboard someone into the rules we have in organizations, so how we do things, how we expect things, how we give tasks, how we receive the work that is done, how we set up the expectations, how we are doing meetings, if we need agenda or not. That type of rules are not the common thing for every organization. So we need to set the standards up, and we need to do this onboarding. So that's the crucial thing when it comes to practices. So all the routines or the regular things we do, and we need to remember to have it equally done for everyone. So encouraging everyone to come to weekly for the team, having one-on-ones, having skip levels with managers every quarter, for example. So all that practices that are keeping the rhythm of the company and making everyone in the loop of information and updated. Where are we going and how we do as organization? And on top of that, we are having behaviors, and behaviors are also, especially in hybrid work, should be super concrete. So what we understand when we say that we are having value, for example, the transparency. What does it mean exactly? Does it mean that I am, as a CEO, I'm saying everything what I do? Does it mean that everyone can share how much they earn? Transparency means different things to different organizations. So that type of do's and don'ts for organizations. So how we behave when we join the meeting, how we behave when we organize a meeting. Are we setting the agenda or it's not needed? So all that small things on a daily basis we are doing intuitively when we are part of organization. But for people who are joining, it's not obvious. So we need to set it up, we need to write it down, and we need to onboard people to make it clear and understandable, because this is the really like organizational culture workplace thing. And because of that part, effectiveness is higher or lower. When we measure it for organizations, when it comes to having practices, having routines in the same company before and after, we see that effectiveness can differ even up to 25%, because
That's a
people
lot.
know that's a lot, and that's a lot of money, and that's a lot of energy, and that's a lot of time. So when we are able to clear what should be done, how we do things, people are also having that clarity. So we save a lot of stress, and we save a lot of time.
I hope that people who are watching or listening to us have some notes, and they are making notes listening to you, or will listen us later, and mark all the important things, because I see that you are super using, ladies, super useful things. Frida, I will ask you the question that is directly for you. How you are as Ework making people feel inclusive in the organization? What are you doing so people can feel the sense of belonging? Because sustainability is your topic. So tell us these practical issues. How are you managing this case at Ework?
As I said previously, I think it's a really tricky, but catching on what Róža said, it's also, I think, a lot of pressure goes to management and leading by example in the inclusiveness, inviting, not only asking for feedback or asking for things, but also making sure that everyone gets seen and heard, and that's a tricky part. Us as a DI group, we had a workshop with the management team last year talking about inclusiveness and how to approach it, to make sure that the management actually focus on these questions and take it onward. But then it's also like you practice one thing, but it's another thing to actually execute it, right? So, and that's the challenge, I would say. Other than that, we are focusing a lot on cross collaboration, like in between different functions in Ework, but also across borders for our market units that we have in different countries, and also trying to adapt to also cultural differences. Because even though we might have the hybrid where we have different cultures regarding work and the prerequisites to do the work, so that's also a challenge and something that we try to tackle, and also that we measure it all the time. Our HR team has an app that all employees have access to, where we have measured the temperature on all employees, that they are feeling included. Like there are various questions that are going out each week that we need to report to, and as soon as you see a number going down, then the manager gets like a note or notice from that, so that they can take quick action to make sure that we try to get the numbers up if there's one topic that we see that it's failing or going down in a downward trend. So I think that's also a good way of trying to reach. But it's also a give and take kind of thing. You have to put in some work in order to get something out of it, and it goes for everyone in the company. And I mean, you can't really go around saying that you want to feel included if you're not trying to include yourself or getting in the forum. So it's also about the one reflection is also about low thresholds. Like it should be easy to speak up, and you should be encouraged to speak up, and also invited to speak. That's what we try to focus on, and the DI committee that we have is open for everyone, so that we have different roles in this committee. Like, for example, we have ambassadors that are like passive in the committee, but they're promoting our inclusive work and try to catch, like being the ear to the ground, trying to catch where we are missing or need more actions to be taken. So we hope that that's effort that we can use being more inclusive.
That's super important. Sylwia, fruitful Thursday are no longer possible in a scale that they used to be. What does it mean, enrich connection for good, that you are having in front of you? And can you tell us about the benefits you are offering, and how does it work in practice when we are not seeing each other, and how companies are using benefits right now? Sylwia is freezed, probably. Oh, I hope that she will come back to us. So maybe this question will, I will repeat it in a second. So Róża, can you talk with us about the benefits that companies can give right now to the employees when you think about remote work and the situation right now in the business? Oh, Sylwia is back. So we will.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe let's Róża start, because Sylwia, I ask you questions, but let's Róża answer, and later I will back to you.
Yeah. Okay. So just to let Sylwia get deeper into the benefits topic, I can only make a little maybe intro to what we see that has changed from the perspective of candidates, because one of our departments is dedicated to talent acquisition, so we are talent partners as well. So we see that there is a change on the market when it comes to expectations from candidates, and when it comes to what matters for them. Of course, salary is super important, as it was always be. So like top three is always having the salary on the first stage. But what is quite interesting, the later people are in their career, or the more they earn, it is less important. So usually in first 5-7 years of the career, the salary is the crucial point. But later, for example, for Polish salaries, the difference between earning 22 and 24K per month is not such big. This 2K as an example are not as big as, for example, the difference at the beginning of the career. So the salary definitely, but when it comes to other motivations and the change, what we see, for us, the generation change can be seen for the first time from last years, because the more often we hear that authenticity is more and more crucial for people. So more candidates are not interested in working, for example, for cigarette companies or for chemical companies. People are looking for the place where they can be aligned. We discussed the belonging, the sense of belonging before, but that type of sharing values and feeling that I can be part of organization which does something good, in my opinion, especially for Generation Z, but also for more candidates from millennials and other generations, it is more and more popular. So that's what we see as a change. So I can that's what from our perspective.
That's really promising, because cigarettes and chemical are not so, let's say, good for the environment, and for our health. So that's also, I think, good direction. But let Sylwia tell us more about the benefits and the way what employees can, let's say, give, promise, what type of benefits then they can offer to convince others, the employees, to stay longer than I don't know, 3 months. But so tell us about the benefits that you are offering right now, and how did you change because of the pandemic, and how you needed to adjust to the market, because I believe that there needed to be some changes.
Yes, that's true. I mean, Róża touched the very interesting subject. It's a generational shift, which we see in the many research which we've done, and there's a difference. But we would spend like more than 1 hour only on that subject, so I'm not going to take that. But it's very interesting to see how Gen Z It's not actually demanding, because sometimes people call them demanding. They are not demanding. They know their worth and they know what they are expecting. And integrity, it's extremely important aspect of their work. So, but when we think about like how the benefit world changed, it is a lot coming from, because we don't treat salary, it's a salary. I fully agree. I mean, this is not the benefit. This is what you need to get because you have done the job. That's it. This is law. But in terms of the benefits, first of all, there are many non-monetary benefits, and it's very important in the new hybrid work, like
Mhm.
clear rules. For example, all the values which company live. For example, we do not expect you to be active on all the time. There are some hours, and we do not expect anybody to answer the emails after that hour. We do not expect any actions if you're on holiday and holidays or assigned period. For example, it's like for us, we really, I mean, this is not the heart surgery to be, called in from the holiday. So many this kind of aspects which are important not only for the generation Z but also for people in order not to be stressed, because that's the reason why people are stressed. And based on the current Signa 360 research, we said that 84% of employees are stressed. 84% with a different actually level of the stress. So we need to actually remember about that. Another very important aspect before we come to the benefits, it's the it's a phenomena. It's not a phenomena. It's a pandemic. It's an epidemic of loneliness. So based on the Meta Gallup survey, recent one, uh, worldwide, 1 out of 4 people feel lonely. This is extremely a difficult situation. And actually, there are a lot of myths about loneliness, because everyone, if I would ask you, probably you would guess that old people, 65 plus, or feeling lonely. That's actually in a contrary what the survey said, because the research said that people between 19 and 29 years old, they feel 30% of them feel lonely, despite the fact that they are living in the families, in the societies, in the groups, and all the things. And actually, whoever is older than 65, only 17% of them feel lonely. So we need to identify that aspect and think about, like, okay, there are two big things in a society which are causing really and jeopardizing our well-being. One is the stress. Everyone is stressed. The level is different. And another one thing is a loneliness. So how we make sure that we actually take care of that in this new society and in the new world, and especially in a remote work, which is actually causing both the stress because I need to be on all the time, or the loneliness because I'm sitting with the camera on me. So one of the top trend right now among a lot of employers and a lot of employees, it's the lunch card. It's the meal benefit. So why it's like that? Because actually lunch, which is very simple thing, actually has two basic aspects, and it's fulfilling two needs. First of all, nutrition. Okay, we want to be healthy, so we want to eat healthy, and we want to make sure that we're doing that in a good pace. But the second thing is, like, this brings people together at the table, and you start discussing the things, and you build a relation, and you boost creativity. So the launch cards in Edenred, like, it's a booming trend. Everyone is talking about that, and sometimes employers are investing and giving the card for the managers. Hey guys, this is the money. Bring your people, and have good time together. And in many occasions, and in many companies, many employers recently, for the last 2 years, are investing in their employees, providing the meal benefit, providing the lunch card for every employee. This is, from one side, it's an additional earning opportunity as a benefit. But the second very important aspect, it's also giving a signal to the employees, hey guys, I'm okay for you to have a lunch. And the proper one, not the sandwich in front of the screen. We are okay with that. So go and have a little bit of time together. And if you're working from home, okay, take the e-commerce, Uber or Glovo pack and enjoy your time. Because in a world of being lonely and stressed, this is actually getting back to the heritage. Like, okay, get around the table and have some quality time.
Hmm. That sounds really reasonable. So Sylwia, don't mute yourself. Tell me one of the final question. What is the future, in your opinion, of employer branding in hybrid work? What we can expect? Do you know trends that are already seen in the market? Where this will go? Because I don't believe we will back to offices as we worked before pandemic. So this feeling of loneliness will stay with us.
Yeah, definitely. And we are learning that, honestly, as we already discussed, we are post-pandemic, but actually we still remember people like we are together here. We still remember how it was working from office all the time, 100%. So we start kind of taken some rules, procedures, the way we work from that time. But we are building a new way of doing things. So we need to remember that. And probably we're gonna make a lot of mistakes. We're gonna be, laughing and taking this as the worst examples from the past, probably. So it's good to test, but it's good also to learn from others, not just reinventing the wheel. How it's gonna look like. I mean, for years, office was the branding of the employer. So you had nice things, and that was the way of doing things. Right now, that's gonna be more digitally. So the rules I already said. Okay, we are not expecting this. We are not expecting this, and behaving the way we say things. Okay, so we are not those how we build the chit chat in the digital environment, because this is what is missing right now. I'm calling you only when we set up the meeting. When is the spontaneously of the meeting, when is the chit chat. So those are the things, and I think a lot of brand building, building, employer value proposition will be built through the how we do things versus like what we show in terms of the aesthetics. Another thing will be there will be big time focus on the communication and the new way of communication and the communication strategy internally and externally. And I think those were the two aspects, like how we behave and what are the rules, and then how we communicate, because even in Generation Z, there's a lot of need in Generation Z to hear the communication from the top down, not individually, but how you behave in a crowd. So that is important. I think tools will be evolved, but that's a separate topic, and a lot of platforms and supporting apps. I think that's given. We're gonna evolve. The most important is this human side of the development.
So you see, Sylwia, that personal branding or role models will be even more needed in future than they are needed right
Yes.
now.
Yeah. It's not going to be the future of the pictures and the aesthetics and how nice video you it's more like how we as a people behave and what is okay and what is not. It's going to be a true value driven management and leadership. So a lot's in front of us, so very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely exciting times. Frida, what is your vision of the employer branding in the future? What do you see that we will have to change or implement, or because as Sylwia said, definitely we will make mistakes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it goes down to also being transparent. It catches on to what Sylwia said, but the transparency, like actually Sylwia almost took what my wordings, but that you promote your company in a way that is truthful and transparent to what you actually are doing, so that because people don't like surprises. You don't want to hear that, okay, we're okay with hybrid work here, and then when you're on board and then you've gone through your trial period at work and they say no, but now it changed, you have to be at the office. I think that's really important, that like to stay true to what you are saying and your values, and what you're expected to do, and when and where you're supposed to report and stay connected with the team and the workplace. And that also goes back to what we talked about regarding management, that the management needs to have the tools and the knowledge on how to act with their teams, and as I said before, lead by example. I mean, you can't demand your team to attend meetings if you're not in the meeting yourself, disregarding so a lot about that type of work is really important, I think, to stay true to what you promote, as Sylwia said. And also, I think one more challenge that all companies are up for is going back to what we talked about at the beginning today, that finding the culture and creativity, and doing it in the right way in the forums, because it is harder for some to get like creative and finding the culture if you're on only remote calls or working remotely only, and for others it's the other way around, that you actually find your creativity when you're sitting by yourself. So it's finding that balance. I think it's a lot to tackle for companies going forward.
Frida, I listen to you and listen to all of the ladies, and I think about the leaders. Their work isn't easy. And when I listen to you, I see that it will be even more difficult than we think right now. And it is so much pressure, on one hand to run a company, think about KPIs, but also to manage by example, and to manage in a way that others will feel inclusive. So I think that we will have to organize a webinar dedicated for leadership, and how to deal with the pressure that we are having and we will have in front of us.
Yeah, and to catch on to that, I talked about participating with some colleagues. I talked about participating here today with some colleagues before, and we were also talking about how you have to give space to leaders to actually lead. I think in a lot of companies you have very operative management that are into very much in detail into the work, and then you don't have time to do the soft part of kind of actually managing your team and finding time for that and finding time for your team members. And that's also something, if you give more space to that, then maybe we are on a good path, I think.
Lots of things to talk about. Róża, what is your vision, and how do you see the employer branding in the hybrid world in the future?
A lot of things was already said, but what would I add here is the fact that you've mentioned leaders. It is super crucial, because we even speak about the effect of the smashed sandwich. We are starting to use that phrase instead of a bare minimum Monday, lazy girl jobs, and all that effects. The problem today is that people are so burned out and so tired, as Sylwia mentioned, and so stressed as well. And the leaders are just in the middle of that problem, because they are pushed from the C-level or from owners to make better scores, to earn more, to reach more when it comes to the business. But they are also smashed from the bottom because of generation conflicts, because of the shift that is coming on when it comes to hybrid work. And they manage from up, then they manage from the bottom, but they don't have additional time and additional tools. And what is more when it comes to employer branding, and that's, I think, the crucial aspect of the future, that in the past we were saying that people are coming to the company and they are leaving the boss. And right now we see, even when it comes to job descriptions, even when it comes to headhunting, people are joining the boss and leaving the boss. So that personal relation with the leader is much more important than ever, because in the era of loneliness and in the era of the moment when you can be fired just using Zoom every day, the real relation you have at your work, especially when you are working hybrid or fully remote, is that relation with the leader. So that tense will be stronger than ever. And the last year, 2023, was having the biggest amount of leaders burned out, leaving work just for nothing. So having a gap year, having 6 months off, just not changing work, saying like, sorry, I'm off. So even if we have more and more layoffs, so the market will be more attractive for companies because they can headhunt. On the other hand, we see that there are not many leaders because they are just off. So that's the big challenge of employer branding and building the teams in general. And the second thing I would add is the standard. So the fact that no matter what, if we are firing, if we are building EVP, employee value proposition, or we are struggling any changes, we are doing teams reshape, because we are having a lot of tensions right now, a lot of changes in many companies. The thing that we are setting the standards and we are super clear what's expected, what will be next, who stays and why. This is the clarity that is super needed in the time of crisis. And when it comes to employer branding, people in recruitment processes are asking about that. How you managed the crisis? Did you fire anyone? What was the way you were treating people? Candidates are asking about that. So the way you treat people in a crisis gives the certification of you for the future. So that's the second thing I would add.
Wow. Now I feel the pressure, but I see many fields to talk about.
Right?
Yeah, now, but I see, this webinar is also great inspiration for me, because I see what topics we should mention and what we should go deeper when you think about webinars of strong women in IT, because this is a real need. A need to talk about how to be a leader in such a difficult times. But Róża, please, in two sentences, because you started this layoffs. How we should say goodbye to our employees in a way that media won't write about us, that social media, we won't be like viral later in the future. How can we say simply goodbye to our employees in a way that they will still treat us and have some, maybe not trust, but respect?
To make it absolutely short, the two most important things to remember: that market is really small, and that we don't act like we don't need these people. You can forget about that type of thinking. So the way how you fire people or how you cut the team is the way how you build your employer branding for future. So how you treat people, even if you are in a situation that you need to cut, 40% of the team, because you will kill the company if you will keep all the costs. So you need to cut. And it's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that you are not able to say what's the context, what's the reason why you do that, because very often leaders are focusing in the communication, in the crisis communication. They are focusing on everything is good, all is fine, just go back to work. Of course people won't, because people need to understand what's the difference between these who are leaving and these who are staying. And that's the most important aspect when we treat how we treat people, and when we set up the communication. So we think how to build employer branding when it comes to treating people fair and giving them context, giving them information, giving them the reasoning. That's the first aspect. And the second important aspect is taking care of people who are staying, not to have the unwanted rotation, because we are having that measure that if we are firing people and after that, up to 6 months after that firing, we are having more than 15% of unwanted rotation, that means that we did it wrong. So
Okay.
the people we wanted to stay with us, they leave. So they didn't feel that there is a difference between these people who are leaving and these people who are staying. So they feel like in danger. So they are looking for a next place for them.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
the
Thank you,
second
Róża.
aspect is to take care of these who are staying.
How do you, Sylwia, how do you see this topic of layoffs that last year were, everywhere, almost everywhere? How to say goodbye to the employee in a way that they will still have good memories about our company?
I think, Róża already said a little bit about that, so I'm fully with Róża. I think respect is something what is required, not only on both sides, on the employer and employees. And we just need to understand the reasons behind the layoffs. There are two reasons. Either there's something wrong with the company, or there's something wrong with the employee. Very simple. Not that simple in proceeding, but in general, there are two reasons. So in Edenred, we are valuing those aspects to make sure that we see the respect and people feel respected, even if that is a very difficult moment for both sides, because it's never difficult only for the employee. It's also very difficult for the employer. There are some emotions, and of course, it's not the most pleasant time in the day or in a year. What we really, despite very difficult moments, what we really value is that when we hear that, despite the fact that we kind of finish the cooperation with the person, and that person is still recommending us on the platforms or to the candidates who we have on the shortlist. It's a moment when we feel good about the whole process, because it means that people, that's what Róża said, people do understand why we've done that. People do understand that there's a certain process, but they felt okay with the process, even though the whole situation is not pleasant, but the all the things behind were okay. So I think, because we can discuss about the form. Is it online better, offline? I think the most important is respect, understanding the situation, why it happened, and what is the reason. Because sometimes it's the wrong thing. It's not just because, excuse my French, is you're an idiot, but because we are not the matching parties. So, for example, this is not the company for you, which is everything is fine with you, but that's not the company that is matching with you. So, respect, communication again, because to understand why and what and how, and choosing the form to make sure that those two aspects, communication and respect, are met.
Yeah, thank you. Ladies, we already ran out of the time. So really one sentence that you would like to leave our listeners, viewers after this webinar. Frida, can you start and say also how people can find you, connect with you, ask some questions?
Yes, sure. A sentence to leave you with is, I would say, sense of belonging and inclusion is really important, and that's what we're going to see going forward also. And with regards to employer branding, to be transparent about your work, the workplace. And you can find me at LinkedIn and reach out to me there. I think I'm the only one with my name, so I'm probably easy to find, or through Ework group.
Thank you very much, Frida. Thank you, Frida, for being with us. Róża, one sentence.
Yes, I'm having the same situation as Frida has with the name. So I'm also on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out to me. And when it comes to the summary, from my side, it will be definitely the clarity. So when we are able to be radical candor, so speaking frankly, being honest, and being clear about what we want and what we expect. That's the thing.
Sylwia, thank you. And the same question for you. One sentence to sum up, and where people can find you.
Communication, respect, integrity. Thus, if we apply that, everything is going to be easier. And you can find me on the LinkedIn, obviously. So happy to connect with you.
Thank you, ladies, for finding the time to share with us your experience, your knowledge. It was super useful, and I hope that people that watch us have notes, lots of inspiration, because I believe that there were so many hints that we can implement straight away in our businesses. So thank you for so much for being with us, ladies. Thank you so much for listening to us, and let's see next month during our wonderful webinar. That now is the surprise, but I hope you will like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.